Well, I'll be damned. Been a long time, Drill, you're supposed to be dead. Human slowly pulled himself to his feet and forced himself to look at the source of the voice, already knowing what he was going to see. Standing between him and Kurth was another human, its heavy plating shifting colors before settling on the standard black, revealing a sleeker version of the same armor that Human wore. He sported a similar pack affixed to his back, the same piercing orange visor, and carried himself with an overconfident stride that commanded the attention of everyone in the room. And plastered across his chest was an all-too-familiar number designation. "No! You're all dead, I made sure of it." Human stammered, struggling to come to terms with the ghost before him. "Hate to be the bearer of bad news, Drill, but I'm very much alive despite your best efforts." The other human replied, stepping forward and cracking his knuckles. "I gotta say, I'm probably more surprised than you are right now. I mean, the great deserter in the flesh. Must be my lucky day." Human stepped back shakily, his heart rate picking up and drowning out the sounds around him. "This isn't real. This has to be some sort of trick. He can't be alive," he thought, trying uselessly to steady his racing thoughts. If I didn't know you any better, I would have thought you were angry by that tone you were using with my pal Kurth. But you don't get angry, right?" The soldier opposite him paused for a moment, clearly listening to something. Wow. Elevated heart rate, shaky breathing. Never thought it was possible for the great nines to be scared of something, and me at that? I should be honored. Human tried backing up, wanting nothing more than to put as much distance between himself and the thing standing before him. Trying to leave already? I just got here, Drill. Too good to talk to your old trainee? Attempted systems breach. I will be occupied. You are on your own. Human heard tic-tac in his head as he finally steadied himself enough to confront the other human across from him. I don't know how you're back. I don't know why. But it doesn't matter. I'm not letting you walk out of here alive. I'll finish what I started all those years ago. As he spoke, he took a combat stance, squaring up against his former trainee. Guess it's about time we got down to it. Shame I didn't bring a weapon for this, but we both know having one wouldn't do either of us any good. Let's see if you've still got it in your Drill. Once he uttered the last word, without any further warning, he rushed forward. Before Human could step back, the soldier was on top of him, grabbing him under one arm and spinning him over the top of his shoulder, slamming him into the ground. Human rolled out of the way just before his attacker's fist smashed into the floor where he was a moment before, leaving a large dent in the metal. Slow. I expected you to be faster. Human came out of the roll into a crouch and lunged up towards his target. The soldier spun to the side, and using Human's own momentum, shoved him into another console at the edge of the room. Sloppy! I thought you were one of the best. The legendary WS-909 is 1,000 years finally starting to catch up to you? Human picked himself back up, positioning the console between the two of them. You never earned the right to call me that. He got out between shaky breaths, looking down at one of the dead brunts on the ground next to him. He quickly ducked down, pulling a steel blade from the combat harness on the body, and sidestepped just in time to avoid being pinned to the wall by another attack. He leaped forward before the other human could recover and shoved him against the wall, driving the blade towards his visor. The other reached up, slowing the attack as Human gripped the knife in both hands, attempting to drive it further. He grunted from exertion, fighting against the other human's strength before he felt a boot to the knee, breaking his stance. Seizing the moment, the soldier grabbed the blade and shattered it in his fist. Human smashed his forehead against the enemy's visor, causing a crack to spiderweb across its surface. Before he could land another blow, he felt a knee impact his stomach, and the soldier broke the grapple, shoving him back over the desk. Not bad. You haven't... Human didn't give him time to finish the sentence. Grabbing a piece of broken glass from one of the smashed interfaces, he launched the glass at him with incredible precision. The jagged piece impaled itself in the small gap between the metal plates on the other human's chest and shoulder. Bright red blood flowed from the wound as the two caught their breath, staring one another down. Haven't lost it, the other human said between ragged breaths. But it'll take a little more than some broken glass to slow me down, Drill. He reached up and pulled the shard out. The blood trickled down for a second longer before stopping completely. Yeah, Gonna take a lot more than that. Where were we? Human scrambled backwards, scanning the room for anything he could use as a weapon. Before he could pinpoint anything, the other human vaulted the console, attempting a quick kick. Human leaned back just in time, grabbing the outstretched leg and flung the human to his left, into the desk that Kurth was cowering in. Kurth tried to scurry out from underneath the piece of ruining furniture, attempting to flee to safety. "Oh no, you're not going anywhere. I can still use you." The human reached out, grabbing the Illyrian in his hand, wrapping his fingers around the creature's torso. "Wait, sir, please, I did—" The little officer was never able to finish his sentence. The other human tightened his grip, crushing the puny creature's spine. He proceeded to easily tear one of the legs off of the deceased officer's body, reaching into the creature's carcass and rending the largest bone free. He snapped the end of it off without any effort, now wielding a crudely made dagger from the Illyrian's femur. Whining all the way till the end, typical anomaly. They're more useful like this anyway, if you ask me. The human stopped, admiring its work before turning back towards its target. "Now why are you even here, Nines? Don't tell me you came for one of these pathetic things. What could they possibly do for someone like us? Just objects to be used and discarded like the abominations they are. I don't owe you an explanation. You didn't get it then and you won't get it now. I gave up on trying to change you all long ago." Human said, glaring daggers at the blood-spattered person across from him. "Oh, you gave up on us? Funny. I remember you doing much more than that," the soldier said, shifting his gaze from his newly crafted weapon to Human in front of him. "Last thing I remember, you tried to kill all of us. You never deserved to be on the pedestal we put you on. I'm glad none of them are alive to see how weak you've become. They'd be disappointed. You haven't changed at all. You always were my biggest disappointment." Human sighed, readying himself for another attack. His words seemed to have struck a chord as the other human lunged forward, jagged bone clutched in his hand. Human tried to dodge the attacks, but his opponent was faster, stronger, younger. The makeshift knife found its place in the armor gap by Human's ribs, his undersuit unable to repel a non-metallic weapon. It was quickly followed up by another attack as Human stumbled backwards. He reached up, trying to block with his hand, catching the sharp bone in the center of his palm. With his other hand, he tried to wrench it free from the soldier's grip. Human tripped on one of the bodies behind him, falling onto his back, the blade freeing itself from his flesh. The attacker didn't relent, thrusting the bone downwards, once more piercing the soft space in Human's shoulder, forcing the blade deeper until it was barely visible. "We idolized you, worshipped you, wanted to be just like you," the other human yelled, standing up, planting his heavy boot on Human's neck, pinning him to the ground. "Were you always just setting us up to die? Leading us on like animals to the slaughter?" He howled, forcing his weight down, trying to crush Human's neck. "Were you planning that shit from day one? We clawed ourselves into existence. We endured the trials, earned the right to live, just for you to tear it all away. I'll make you suffer for all the lives you took. But unlike them, it won't be quick and easy. You'll feel all their pain for them." Human struggled to catch his breath, feeling the tension in his undersuit giving out, the power percentage reading in his visor dropping by the second. "For Mags, for Sev, for 8, all of them. When I'm done here, you'll wish you stayed dead. We thought you actually cared about us. Was it all just an act? Tic-tac, I need you now. Please," Human thought, begging for any sort of assistance. Indisposed, endure. I did care. I really did. I tried to teach you all better, to teach you how to feel." Human got out between choked gasps, reaching up to try to force the weight off of him. "Oh, that's that it was. How to feel. Look where that got you." The boot eased up, only to be stomped back down even harder. "You were always weak, always different. The weak only deserve death in this world. You earn the right to live through suffering, through struggle, and I've more than earned my life by now. Your story ends here, drill." Counterattack complete. Overriding mass tension. Administering Combat Shim 3, standby. Tic-Tac's voice sounded in Human's head as his vision was starting to fade. He felt his body surge with energy as he was injected with a cocktail of various chemicals. His hands tensed around the boot, holding him down. Metal groaned for a second before shattering completely. Hands no longer his clenched, tight, crushing metal, then tissue, then bone. The human yelled in pain as his foot was completely and utterly shattered. Human threw his old trainee backwards, standing up and catching his breath. That's where you're wrong. My story's just begun. I didn't escape that hell just for it to end there, and it's certainly not going to end to the likes of you. Human stepped forward with a newfound fury, artificial adrenaline coursing through his veins, his anger fixated on the only thing in front of him. He stopped, listening for a moment. Elevated heart rate, shaky breathing, seems like you're the one who's scared now. The human scrambled back, trying to pull himself to his feet, but collapsing back to the ground with each futile attempt. Human strode forward, tearing the Illyrian femur from his shoulder, closing the distance between them. You're going to die, and I'm going to rid the galaxy of our kind once and for all. Then the universe will finally be a better fucking place. Human grabbed the soldier's neck, holding him in place as he brought the bone down, forcing it through the glimmering visor. His own face stared back at him in the reflection. The soldier brought his hands up in a futile attempt to block the attack, but was too late. The shard broke through the glass, blood spurting out through the small hole in the center of the mask. Human squeezed his old trainee's neck, the sound of bones snapping underneath the flexible undersuit. He stepped back, looking down at the mirror image of himself bleeding out on the ground before him. It shuddered as it struggled for air, the time between each breath growing longer with every passing second. It's done. Deactivate combat protocols tic-tac. Let's get what we came here for. Human sighed, turning back towards the main door. Behind him he heard a sharp inhale as the corpse caught its breath. Leaving without finishing the job once again? Don't make that mistake twice, Drill, the human said between fits of coughing up blood. I may be the first, but I won't be the last. They know you're alive now. They can send all of you they want. They'll need more than just my old students to put me down. Heh, he chuckled, spitting out more blood. They'll only send one. Like I said, I'm not worried. You're a dead man walking and you don't even know it, Drill, the human whispered, barely able to get the words out now. He's alive, you know. And once he finds out you are too... The soldier let out one final laugh. He's been waiting to be useful again. Who are you talking about? A tinge of fear evident in Human's voice as he posed the question. He turned around to look at the dying soldier one last time. 1,047 years ago. You want to do it this time, Nines? Nah, I had all the fun last mission. I'll let you handle it this go-around. I'll see what I can get out of that one in the meantime. Nines said, pointing to the only fully grown anomaly in the room. Understood. Get what we came here for. Keep it short. Zero replied sternly as he strode forward to the small group of anomalies that were cowering in the center of the room. He looked over the huddle of trembling creatures with disgust. The last group of survivors in the facility had locked themselves within a bomb shelter, cornering themselves without even realizing it. Nines looked down at the anomaly he pointed out. It was trying to soothe the small ones that were crying and wrapped its tail around them to give them a semblance of security. How many versions of Prime you think these things ended up as the dominant species? Strange question, Zero replied, striding over and grabbing one of the anomalies by the throat, snapping its neck and throwing it to the side like trash. Technically an infinite number of them. However, potential changes would be minuscule. The evolution of a species falls roughly in the same span of years every time, so they would be nearly identical in most iterations. I wonder if there's a version of them that don't make these annoying whines. Always so loud, makes them easy to find, though. Nines noted, crushing one of the anomalies under his boot without noticing. Unlikely, even in the infinite. Time is constant across gates, so we would never be able to see this species before or after its current evolution. Plus, communication is nearly a guarantee when a species reaches technical domination. Zero countered. Well, if there is one, we'll never see it in our lifetimes. It's a shame we're almost done here. Wish it could have lasted longer. Nines felt the creature underneath him stop struggling. Its heartbeat flickered and died out. He welcomed the anticipated rush of chemicals flooding into his mind, rewarding him for another kill, another job well done. Never loses its luster, does it? You enjoy yourself too much. The chems don't do it for me anymore. I do it just because it's what I'm supposed to do. The missions are our priority, not getting your fix every 10 minutes, Zero said, standing over the last survivors. Just to confirm, we have no need for these ones, correct? Yeah, go ahead. Reached quota weeks ago. Just cleaning up the last holdouts and prepping the place for the Logixer. Nines answered, reaching down and prying the grown anomaly away from the group. Clutching it around the neck in one hand, he casually threw it onto the ground and planted his boot on one of its legs, crushing the fragile creature's bones and holding it in place. Tack, translate for me. Nines instructed, then locked eyes with the anomaly. You did a good job scrubbing most of the data from your computers, but not good enough. Where are the other facilities? The anomaly was still crying in pain, clutching uselessly at its broken leg, trying to pull it free. Calm down. If you just tell me, then you won't be hurting much longer. But trust me when I tell you, I have nowhere else to be. This can last as long as you let it. Nines casually explained, forcing even more of his weight down until his boot was nearly flush with the floor. Please, I'll tell you what you want. Just let the little ones live, it said between sobs. Before her pleas could be answered, the sounds of screams echoed behind the pair, gunshots rang out, and the room was pitched into silence, save for the trembling breaths of the last anomaly. Sorry, ran out of room for new stock weeks ago, and if I did that, then my partner wouldn't get to enjoy himself now, would he? So I'll ask again, where are the other shipyards? It was a poor choice to leave me as the last one. I have nothing left to live for. The anomaly declared, then brought a hidden blade up to its throat, slicing it open. It collapsed down onto its back as the bright red blood started spurting out, staining its graying silver fur red. Well, damn, it beat me to it. Tack, any chance we can find anything else on those computers? Nines said with a note of disappointment. Negative, sir. We recovered the messages to other facilities, but were unable to ascertain their destinations. Unfortunate. I'm not lugging this thing's brain back, so this was a bust. At least we're ahead on the timeline. Plot a course for the extraction point. Ready to go, Zero? Yes, I'm ready. Just using what's left of these things to refill my nutrient canisters. Should keep us going for a few more weeks at the least, Zero replied, placing one of the small creatures in a bag he pulled off of his waist. The bag compressed around the body, a sizzling sound emanating from it. After a few seconds, dark brown liquid flowed from the bag into a canister fixed to his armor. Need resupply? All good here, let's step, Nines said. The pair walked out of the subterranean complex into a vast rocky desert. White sand dunes stretched out to meet the horizon, with tan rocky mountains acting as a backdrop behind them. After a few minutes of walking, the duo stopped atop one of the untouched dunes. All right, we're far enough away. Let's take a break here. Temperature's stable. We've earned a rest. You know they don't like it when we take our time. We need to stay on task. You keep drawing things out on every mission. 6 is getting agitated, Zero criticized. Unlike you, I actually like to enjoy myself sometimes. You need to lighten up a little more. It's all done here. We're not hurting the mission by taking our time. Nines said, sitting down, his boots buried into the soft sand underneath him. All right, I know better than to argue with you. But what do we gain from taking a break here? Nothing, really. Just get to enjoy a rest from work. Come on, that's a luxury for guys like us, said Nines, lying back in the sand, looking up at the sun setting in the sky. We don't need luxuries. I'm more than fine just carrying on, Zero said, but sat down next to Nines regardless. Sucks for you. You'll have to wait for me. You'll look back on our little breaks and appreciate them when we're out of here. They're not going to last forever, Zero. There's got to be something you enjoy besides the missions, Nines said, glancing up at his partner. Yes, all good things come to an end. Enjoy is one of the many strange words you've taught me. Zero sighed, entertaining his partner's conversation. But I believe I've finally started to understand it. How to have a good time. Never thought I'd see the day. Nines chuckled. So how'd you do it? It was difficult at first. To ascertain if the feelings I had from completing a mission were genuinely mine, or from the implant. but I can see it for what it really is now. I can feel what is mine and what is machine. Zero said, thinking aloud. Too smart for your own good. You're the only man I've met that's figured out the system besides me. But here you are, still playing the game. Doing it just for the hell of it now, are we? I think I do it because it's what I'm good at. I enjoy it, even when the implant is not rewarding me. But you? You only like it because that's what you've been conditioned to like. You were defective, weren't you? Zero asked. I was. When I was younger, failed the first test, got reconditioned, it didn't stick. But they didn't give up. They wouldn't waste an S. After enough tries, I realized what they were doing, what they weren't telling me. Nines explained, letting out a sigh. 8-year-old me was smart enough to put on the act, and now, it's hard to tell if I'm still acting. I see. I suppose they were hoping that I would rub off on you, that you'd end up more like me. Zero laid down in the sand next to Nines, the two looking up in the blue sky speckled with clouds. But now, I'm laying down in the dirt talking when we're supposed to be moving. Seems you ended up rubbing off on me instead, the soldier laughed, the sound coming across as foreign and awkward, as if he had never done it before. So you've always been able to tell the difference? Between the real emotions and the ones you're made to feel? Yep, not too hard once you know what to look for. But I'm not as strong as you. Can't just ignore the fake ones like you do. Suppose that's why I keep going. Zero's tack interrupted their conversation. Gentlemen, it has been a few minutes, so your SLLS halt should be complete by now. You should initiate movement once more. No thanks, I'm fine here. We'll be off in 5. Nines replied with his hands interlocked behind his head. This instance will be reported and a recording of events sent to Dagger 6, Nines tack said, hoping to get the pair on the move again. Denied, he'll survive, Nines said curtly, thinking for a moment before choosing his next words. So what do you like to do? You have to have something you enjoy to be able to tell them apart now? For me, it's shit like this. Those nice gaps of time between the missions. Nothing to worry about, nothing to do. It makes me feel just as good, but I can tell it's real, it's mine, my own contentment, not something artificial. I think... Zero paused, searching for what made him happy. I think it is the time that I spend talking to you. Before we were paired, before I met you, I could not even conceive of enjoying anything other than what we were made for. But you make me think about things that do not matter. I quite enjoy that. It almost makes me believe we were meant to do more than this, that there is more to living than what we're made to believe, than what they want us to believe. Yeah, I think so too. Maybe once we're done here, we can find something better to do. After this, our purpose will be fulfilled. It is a frightening thought, to be useless. I'll find us something, it's not ending here, Nines said, smiling under his helmet. I learned an interesting word from these anomalies. I think you'd like it too. I heard it once when we were doing a recon a few weeks back, had to ask TAC for a translation. Turns out we already had our own word for it, we just hadn't ever needed it. What was the word? Friend. And what does it mean? Someone that you enjoy being around, and you stay around them not because you have to, but because you want to. I like that one, it's a good word, friend, Zero said, rolling it over his tongue. And whatever comes next, as friends, we'll do it together. Always and until the end, right? Always and until the end. Present day. Zero breathed life into his body for the first time in over 1,000 years. He rose from the cryostasis chamber, hands breaking through titanium restraints with ease. His first step back into the world caused the metal floor of the room to groan in protest as he stood up at his full height, nearly brushing the ceiling. Crisp air filled his artificial lungs as he took another breath. He looked down at his body, his missing limbs having returned to the proper places. He listened for the blood rushing through his extremities, but only heard the dead whine of machinery around him. He stepped forward and stretched his arms. The sounds of metal bending and shifting emanated from his reconstructed joints. His gaze scanned the small room for signs of anyone nearby, but found himself alone. He searched for the itch at the back of his mind, where he should have felt the presence of his TAC, but it was gone. Welcome back, WS000. I apologize, it has been so long since we last spoke, but we have need of you once more. There is much to get done. Are you ready to begin? Asked a disembodied voice that echoed throughout the room. At the conclusion of the question, for the first time in a millennia, Zero smiled.